decide when you want to leave.
So at this part of the episode, we see the body of a patient that just passed away during the night shift prior to episode 1. So if you recall, the night shift doc was giving a report to the day shift doc, and they mentioned the case of waiting for a family member of one of the patients that just passed away to come into the ER. And again, this is very realistic. We'll have a patient that passes away. We know that family, they haven't made it yet. They're coming from out of state, or maybe it's a travel issue, a transportation issue. And so that body is typically going to be in one of the rooms. Sometimes it's a private room as we wait for the family to come visit. So very realistic. But let's do a flashback to that part of the episode. So again, this is the beginning of episode 1 as both attendings are on the roof talking about the case. The night shift just finished his shift, and then the day shift doc was just going to start his shift.
Morning, Jack. What are you doing here? I'm working. And you?
Well, I don't know. Had a guy come in, hit by a drunk driver in a crosswalk, 39-year-old vet. Survived 3 tours without a scratch. I spent the last 2 hours coding it.
That's always a rough way to end the night.
Must have had a reason at one time to keep coming back, but I can't think of it right now.
Because this is the job that keeps on giving. Nightmares, ulcers, suicidal tendencies. Besides, if you jump on my shift, that's just rude, man.
Hope I'll never one of your patients.
That makes 2 of us, my friend.
So there's just so much accuracy in this conversation that I really cannot critique it. I just want to mention it because of how spot on this is. The things you simply see in one shift, that's not counting all the shifts in a month, in a year, over the years. It's going to affect you. What we learn about Dr. Abbott is that he is former military. So when he got a patient that was also military, it affected him differently. Now, I've had countless patients where, we've talked about the military, we've talked about where we've trained, where we've been. They're in the ER, for example, and it's not even related to the military. I've had patients where, they served for 20 plus years, multiple tours of duty. They didn't get injured one time overseas, making it years of military service with no injury, only to come back to the States and suffer a cardiac arrest from a drunk driver, for example, is something that as a doctor, as a nurse, as a tech, you're going to think about for quite some time. Let's get back to episode 3.
Sorry. I'm sorry I wasn't here with you. I'm here now. Wherever you are. I don't know what the world is without you. I really can't look at this letter when I get too much. Ask you to read it to me.
So at this point, we find out that Dr. Abbott, the night shift doc, wrote a letter to the family. This case affected him so much that he took the time to write this letter for the family to read. Now, there's a special bond in cases like this, especially between service members. Whoever the writer was for this episode definitely knew how to tug on some heartstrings for sure. So I have the day off right now, and I work the night shift tonight. And I feel like I'm watching this and that I'm still at work. And again, for a medical drama to do that is very impressive. Again, love this episode.
The family of Raymond Orser. My name is Dr. Jack Abbott. I am the emergency department physician who treated Raymond. I, like Ray, am also a veteran. And though I never met Raymond before today, I served with men like him. So I can only imagine what an outstanding person he must have been. I'm sorry I could not save Ray's life. We worked on him for several hours, but his injuries were too severe. Even for someone as tough and battle-tested as Raymond. Please take some comfort in knowing he did not suffer. You have my heartfelt condolences, Jack Abbott.
Thank you.
Very welcome.
And what we learn about this case from Dr. Abbott is he mentions, the patient had a cardiac arrest. It sounds like they would get a pulse back. The patient would go into cardiac arrest again. They would get a pulse back. The patient would go into cardiac arrest again. And they're approaching 2 hours of trying to resuscitate this patient. As a former soldier, this patient just kept coming back. And I think how Dr. Abbott was approaching this is that if this former soldier wasn't going to give up on Dr. Abbott wasn't going to give up on him. And there came a point where you're approaching 2 hours and that patient no longer came back. So I actually have a very similar story to myself. And, I always talk about this story because it kind of shaped how I am as an attending, how I approach cases. And the reason I talk about it in detail, one, I have permission from Libby specifically, but this particular article, this particular story garnished millions of views across the United States. You're talking multiple news outlets, multiple interviews, patient interviews, myself. And so we were both all over the news, at least for a little bit of time. So this is something that obviously HIPAA is not an issue because of all these things. So I do want to talk about it because it kind of shaped who I am as an attending. Now at the time, it was a 24-year-old presenting from Ball State University coming in CPR in progress. I was a brand new attending after finishing residency, and I find out I'm getting a 24-year-old female coming into the trauma bay after being found unresponsive for an unknown period of time. EMS was doing CPR, and we're getting this patient. This is my patient. Now fast forward a little bit and she ended up suffering a massive pulmonary embolism. That's a blood clot within the lungs, and that caused the cardiac arrest. At this point, we're going on 40 minutes of CPR with nothing. She was clinically dead for 40 minutes. Now, if Libby was not going to give up on us, I wasn't going to give up on her. I could have called time of death at any time, but I told my team, it's a beautiful day to save lives. Let's make it happen. Now, as an attending, being at this point and realizing, this is a 24-year-old female, she's healthy, she's been down a long time. Let's go one more round. Let's go 2 more rounds. Ultimately, though, I made the decision to give a medication called TPA, and this particular medication used in a massive pulmonary embolism. Again, there's a high mortality in cardiac arrest from a PE, but at this point, this is a Hail Mary. We have nothing else to lose. It's either I call it or I give this medication. So end up pushing this medication, got a heartbeat back, and she'd go to the ICU in extremely critical condition. I remember her mom asking me, Dr. Taylor, is my daughter gonna make it? And I just said, I don't know. She was down for an unknown period of time. She had 40 minutes of CPR. She went a long time potentially without any oxygen, even prior to arrival in the ER, and she's unresponsive going to the ICU. So I didn't know, but we did everything we could, at least on our side. It was up to Libby at that point. Now, a couple weeks went by and I got to work a little bit early, and one of the docs said, hey, someone was actually looking for you in the ICU, and if you want to go ahead and head up there, I got you at least in the meantime. And I had my idea of who it was, but I wasn't sure. Again, we're going on a couple weeks and I really haven't heard anything. And so I go up there and it turns out it was Libby. She had actually been extubated earlier that day and was talking with family. And again, I just cut this scene, but I wanted to keep it rolling because in emergency medicine, cases like this affect you, and they're going to affect you for years. How you approach patients, how you treat patients, what happens because of this, these are things that will affect you forever. These are cases you're going to remember forever. Now, Libby would suffer multiple strokes, being without oxygen for a long period of time. She would have months of grueling rehab, but she danced out of that hospital the day she left. And she went on to finish her master's degree, and we're still in communication to this day. And this is one of those that, in one of the episodes, I'll definitely have to have her on, and we'll definitely talk about the case. For anybody that's interested, I'm actually going to post a link to the video itself in addition to one of the articles. So feel free to check that out. It's super heartwarming. I love it. This is the reason that physicians, physician assistants, nurses, techs, anybody in healthcare goes into emergency medicine. It's for moments like these. It's for moments to save a life. This is real ER medicine.